Welcome, friends. Uh, Here we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So first of all, very much a big thank you to Legal Era to have this, unique concept of thought leadership and weekly. And as we all know, we are in the third week with concentration on the topics relating to pharma and healthcare, the progression of, pharma getting merged into healthcare and the big picture issues around them. But surprisingly, it's been a kaleidoscope. Today's sessions are a kaleidoscope, and our friends who are listening to all of us would not get only bogged by pharma and healthcare, but you do have, topics of white collar crimes and real estate and, the digital space. Uh, just to come back to pharma and healthcare, which is very passionate to me, I happened to read today's headlines in economic, ET Health, and two things struck me most. First one was a news which I'm quoting from Economic Times. ET Health is, Cipla ties up with an IT startup for waterless technology. See where our Indian healthcare is going. The second very important, and very punching headline I read was on the world faces huge statistics of depression and mental health issues in the post-COVID areas. And are our laws equipped to deal with these issues, whether our laws relating to mental health need any change, criminal laws, civil laws, whether actions taken by people in COVID depression are to be, treated as offenders, so on and so forth. There was a punching headline on this. Now, as we see, the way pharma has been trending or healthcare has been trending, and before I get into the emotional discussion on, vaccines, which, everybody is talking today, I would like to touch upon certain things where pharma has been trending in non-vaccine areas or in other areas, and there are huge innovations in that area. To begin with, which I think all of us are familiar, is in the digital space where the use of AI, blockchain, data analytics, there has been humongous technology involvement, especially in the areas of clinical trials, in the areas of research and development technology, and not to forget, supply chain in a very big way where AI, blockchain, and data analytics have been used, and it's going to get more and more used even in 2022. As I see, it's a very, very trending space. And I'm sure, our panels in the pharma and healthcare and future would be discussing a lot about this. With the use of, so much of, internets and social media and AI, and with so much of deals and with so much of data sharing going, exchanges happening between companies, regulators, courts, tribunals, what another very important thing which has cropped up and is trending today is the cybersecurity threat. Cybersecurity threat in pharma and healthcare is humongous. And there are very, very large cases globally, whether you speak about US for, cybersecurity theft of, subject data, patient data. There are very big cases which are currently already pending. And there have been cases, unfortunately, I cannot name them, where huge penalties have been, levied on pharma and healthcare companies by different regulators in the US as well as in the EU, in Australia, and other parts of the world. So cybersecurity is a very emerging threat, and obviously the pharma fraternity, the healthcare fraternity, and lawyers, of course, playing a very big role in this. If we have seen another thing which is trending in the pharma and healthcare is, we had a data privacy officer, but now we have chief digital officers more and more, and we have, very importantly, and it's been trending in the last 6 months, chief patient officer. So that much importance is given to the services or the end user of the industry, both in pharma and healthcare. And that's where I see the convergence of both the industry, the medical services as well as the medicines, they are converging, and the end user patient healthcare is gaining more and more importance. And companies, pharma companies, as well as healthcare companies, devices companies are appointing chief patient officers. Other very trending and a very interesting concept which has come and which is also linked to patient healthcare and digital patient services, digital patient information and awareness, is beyond the pill concept. So when pharma gets into a treatment, or when there is a healthcare provider who gets into a treatment, it's just not the concentration on the medicine, but it is beyond the medicine, it's beyond the pills. So it is dealing a lot with who is the patient, finding out the entire psychology, physiology of the patient. And cure beyond pills is a new concept which is developing in the healthcare sector. Back to basics, a very important thing we all know, in pharma, regulatory filings, regulatory matters, US FDA, European Commissions, cases, discovery, data, we all know that. But amidst all this chaos, which is happening before the regulators, a new concept has come up. And this has come up in 21-22, and that is called the real world evidence. So now evidence is actually very much based on what you have and not what is supposed to be had. So there is a very classic difference between the two, and that's gaining more and more prominence to have quicker disposals in regulatory matters and litigation matters, especially global matters, where while really defining what is the real world evidence or the real world data, that takes time. At that stage, maybe there is a cost involved, but the disposal or the processing of that data with the regulators, it gets streamlined, and going forward, one does save a lot of costs, technology costs, as well as the legal costs. So big pharma and today everyone is, they are going more and more towards the real world evidence. Obviously, along with this real world evidence, we do have, increase of telehealth services, not to mention that. And very important, and this is a trend I have seen in the industry, and I have studied this trend globally. The use of opoids have been reducing. Now, the surprising thing, use of opoids being reduced, and at the same time, within the COVID period, you are having increase of depressions. So here there is a challenge, and 2022 will see that challenge, that how, the medical industry and the pharma industry match these two, obviously from an industry perspective, from a treatment perspective, but obviously as lawyers, how do we cope up with, the laws associated with this, as well as also how, as opoids are getting more and more banned, how do we really help business to shift focus from an opoid based market to a more generic market, because opoid is a very big market. It is so basic, we all know that. It's in the pain management sector, and pain management is something which every pharma is, having a very big scoop of business in that. But challenge for the lawyers, where, you have more of bans and more of recalls and more of issues where, opoids pose a problem. And I think that's a figure. It's a watch, just like a cybersecurity watch. I think that's something where the pharma and healthcare. So these were some of the non-vaccine, trending things. Of course, there are many more trending things which is happening in pharma and healthcare. And I think we have two dedicated panels today, one on digitization, and one is, of course, future trends in pharma and healthcare, who will discuss more and more about it. Just I want to touch upon very little on vaccines. Um, Vaccines is nothing new. We've had the vaccine policy in India for the last, I think, more than 20 years. We are having the vaccine policy. There are vaccines, there were vaccines, but with COVID, suddenly everybody's only speaking about vaccines. And somehow the focus, whether it is the technology officer or the legal officer or the business officer, everybody wants to do vaccine, everybody wants to be in the rat race, but it's not so important. And of course the IP part, and Mr. Praveenji is there, and he will obviously discuss in detail IP developments across the world, including on vaccines. But this entire discussion on vaccine waiver, I don't know. I think it's more academic, because even if there is a vaccine waiver, and today I am told even US is favoring, along with Russia, China, India, BRICS countries, South Africa, and all, even US wants a vaccine waiver. But does that really help? It doesn't help. I think it doesn't help to a great extent, unless the governments really come on good policy on affordability and accessibility. Vaccine IP itself is very complex. I don't want to get into discussion, but yes, you do have the adenovirus, you have the mRNA, and then you have, vector complexity. So it's the IP is very complex. So even if you have a waiver, you will not have, 10 companies down the line who would start manufacturing the vaccines. That's not going to happen. Vaccine contracts, CDMO deals are very complex. And the panel, I'm sure they must be discussing the various licensing deals and the CDMO deals and the fill finish structure deals, the distribution deals. They're extremely complex. Market is very complex. Accessibility is complex. Today India is barely 10% vaccinated. So there's a huge gap, and we need to fill this gap. And I don't think just vaccine waiver is going to help that. I think government needs to really bring in something which would really get stakeholders, which is the manufacturers, the IP owners, the government, the distributors, everybody on the table to find a good chart ahead for vaccines. And there is tremendous scope in this, because at the end of the day, this disease is only multiplying. There are variants coming, every fortnight. So whether vaccine is a solution, it's a big question mark. And lawyers, along with other stakeholders, have been day and night working on this, day and night helping business to get things on place, whether it is the healthcare, the hospitals, or the pharma, to get rollouts, documentation, SOPs, compliance. Lawyers have been working 24/7, trust me, and there is no exception to that in any company which is a pharma or a healthcare company. So before I hand it over to Navneet, who would obviously speaking about a different industry and ICTs, I would just like to read out one poem, as Shikha also quoted, gave a wonderful quotation. I would like to read out a poem, Abu Ben Adam by Leigh Hunt, and this is a very old poem. And somehow I always relate myself to the last stanza to it. So please allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to read this out. Abu Ben Adam, may his tribe in praise, awoke one night from a deep dream of peace, and saw within the moonlight in his room, making it rich and like a lily in bloom, an angel writing in a book of gold, exceeding peace, and made Abu Ben Adam bold. And to the presence in the room he said, "What writest thou?" The vision raised its head, and with a look made of all sweet accord answered, "The names of those who love the Lord." "And mine?" Abu Ben Adam said, "Is it there?" The angel said, "Nay, not so," replied the angel. Abu spoke very low. but cheerly still, and said, I pray thee then, write me as one that loves his fellow men. The angel wrote and vanished, and next night it came again with a great awakening light, and showed the names whom God loved the best. And lo, Ben Adam's name led the rest. So, though people speak about lawyers, so many things, but this is very close to my heart because we do serve people, and in doing service to people, we do service to humanity and therefore service to the Supreme. Navneet, over to you. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this patient hearing.